curious, this wasn't always your chosen calling. You were a biomedical engineer?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of was always interested in music, always in bands from the moment I was like 15 on, but it was never anything that I really expected to be a career. When I basically started college is when I started the Girl Talk project. And during that time, I went to school for biomedical engineering and put out 2 albums in the 4 years and toured during summer and winter breaks. But it was something where, you know, there was never more of a fan base than like 30 people in any given city. Eventually, like years later, when it did eventually kind of pick up, I was working an engineering job, and it kind of came, you know, as a surprise that I was actually going to have to decide between working versus, you know, doing music.
We blowing purple stuff, we blowing purple stuff, we blowing purple stuff, we blowing purple stuff.
I put out my 3rd album called Night Ripper, and that album started to get a buzz online and in magazines and everything. And I was working the day job Monday through Friday, and then on Saturday and Sunday I would fly out of town and basically do shows. And they started to sell out, and it turned into every weekend, and all of a sudden I just wasn't having any time off. And I kind of finally took a step back and said, well, I'm actually making enough money to live off of this. So I thought it would be cool to quit and just do music for a year, then that would be awesome. Then I'll go back into the engineering thing. So I quit the job, and then it just kind of continued on from there.
These things take a long time to create, right?
Yeah, my last album took me 2.5 years. So it's the sort of thing where literally work on it every day. When I don't have a show, I usually put in 8 to 12 hours, you know, sit there and cut things up. And it's not very intuitive for me. It's more trial and error. So I'm constantly cutting up things, trying out ideas, and it's like the more source material I have in front of me, the more potentially interesting music there is. And I think just the nature of it, just it's meticulous, and just paying attention to, you know, the level of detail and really working. You know, I might spend a whole day working on a half second or something, some little transition that I'm not feeling good about.
I'm double fisted and you empty, you can grab a club. Boy, stop, I'm just playing, boy, stop. Now this goes out to all my players in the back, sipping yak, getting round corners in the lack. Get up, get up, get up, get up. Do that, do that, do it. And this goes out to all my ladies in the front. What you want? You make me wanna breathe, girl, freeze.
You know, the world I come from was never playing with DJs, it was never playing at dance clubs, it was never like spinning records. And even to this day, if you were to give me a new song and say, spin that into your set, I don't know how to play 2 songs simultaneously, and that's it. It's, you know, I never really thought of it as just playing other people's songs. I was always trying to make something new out of it. So I think, you know, mashups started to become big around the year 2000. And I think most of those were typically one vocal over top of another instrumental. And a lot of the electronic music that I was really into was very precise. So I wanted to apply kind of that level of influence to mashups, and instead of just layering 2 songs, layer hundreds of them and have it be very complicated and crazy and all over the place.
You won't be around next year. My rap stoops the bed, can get bad flavor in your ear. Here comes a brand new flavor in your ear. Time for new flavor in your ear.
Part of the appeal of the mashup is the ridiculousness of it, right? I mean, the idea that you could take a song and have Black Sabbath and Ludacris on the same song and make something appealing about it. That's sort of part of what makes us so interested in it, right?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, and that's part of what's fun for me. I like all sorts of different music, from classic rock to hip hop to all over the map. I think sometimes when the music seems like it's from very different places, that is when it can become truly transformative.
What do the artists say? I mean, have you ever heard from any of them?
Yeah, you know, a little bit, and I've heard people interview the artist and ask about it. So, you know, always, you know, never really anything negative. Everything's been basically positive, and that ranges from a rock band called the Toadies, who had some hits in the 90s and, you know, still exists today. When I released my new album, they were tweeting about it, and they put it on the front page of their website. And that was one of the first times someone actively like promoted it. You know, I've heard positive things, but they were like pushing it on people and very excited about it.
And at the end of the day, you're generating more interest in their original song.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I think a lot of labels and the artists and everyone's kind of understands that, you know, there really is no competition.
got to be insane though to walk in this room where there are 3,000 people who are hanging on your every mashup.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a sort of thing where, you know, it's evolved and it's grown. There's been big jumps, but it's also been 10 years. So I've been able to really concentrate on adapting the show to each level. You know, for years, it was just me to 30 people and just trying to engage that crowd. And I feel like that was so valuable those years. You know, play shows where people are hating every second of it and still trying to convert them and be comfortable with, you know, giving your all when the crowd's leaving or people are trying to unplug you or whatever, you know. So for years, kind of a big thing was just inviting people on stage, getting in the audience. I think because I have that, there's certain freedom in performing on the laptop that you might not have at the band, so try to take advantage of that and love to make it a free-for-all. And you know, I think the shows were well known for being chaotic on that level for years. It's like every kind of 6 months or a year there's this new edition. It just continues to grow, and I want to have people go home and be like, that was my favorite concert this year, even though it was a guy remixing music. That's exciting to me. You know, I've dedicated my whole musical life to doing this style music, so I want it to exist on an original, on a this is my favorite band sort of level as much as, you know, any artist.